Hello and welcome to Crime Watch. I'm Jane Cameron and Sergeant Nunez is somewhere over there, I think. You remember last month we gave you a little look at a tabletop exercise at the Buena Park Police Department about active shooter incidents. Representatives from the school, the FBI, Buena Park Police Department, Orange County Fire Authority, and a bunch of other agencies were there to participate and to plan what they should do if there was a shooter on a school campus. Well, after weeks of getting everything ready and getting everything in place, this is the day. We're at Buena Park High School and they're getting ready to have an active shooter training incident. There are a lot of police departments and vehicles in the parking lot. There's officers that are starting to set up the school. It is during spring break, so there are no children here. Although we do have search and rescue volunteers who are going to be playing the students. Of course, there's somebody that's going to be with a fake gun, and there's going to be a great opportunity for everyone to learn from this so that if it ever does happen, they'll be prepared and everyone will be safe.
What this is an active shooter exercise. You guys will be participating today, okay? We're going to try to make this as realistic as possible, hence why you guys are here, okay? For the scenario, there will be 2 gunmen on campus, okay? One will initiate the weapons discharge of shooting. It will be laid out in certain classrooms, and we'll go through that, okay? The second gunman will actually initiate later on to actually spur the contact teams or the officers to go find the second gunman, okay? What's going to happen is, as we set this thing in motion, you will be given, 30 of you will be given triage cards, just like this, okay? They look just like this. Some are, it's kind of the same one. Okay, so some are bad wounds, and some are really like nothing, okay? So what we need you to do, if you get a card, if you're one of the lucky 30 that gets a card, if it says under injuries, gunshot wound, GSW is gunshot wound, okay? If you have that on your card, please do not move, okay? If an officer or if a firefighter says, get up and walk, tell them, I can't. My injury says I can't. There will be controllers, and I'll go over that in just a second. But make sure you let them know that you cannot walk, okay? Gunshot wounds do not walk. If you have something like this, no apparent injuries, okay? All right? We want you to hide. We want you to come out. We want you to surprise the officers. We want you to be panic-stricken. Because what's going to happen in an active shooter incident? One, you're going to try to run away, right? Run, right? What's the second you're going to do? Hide, right? And what's the last thing you're going to do?
Fight.
Fight. Okay, right? We're going to remove the fight piece in this. No fighting, please. Okay? So we're removing the fighting piece. I don't want to get... Please don't. Right? So, but run and hide, okay? So when you hide, when officers come to search, you jump out, you're panicked, you're stricken. If they ask you questions, if they ask you a question and you're panicking, how are you going to answer? I don't know. Yeah, exactly. Act excited. Are you going to go, oh man, he went down this way and I saw him. No! I saw a guy go, and just act panicky. Practice your drama, I know, right? You're all teenagers. Drama's good to you guys, right? I am a teenager, I know. He's full of drama.
So this is what it'll look like when you see it when a police officer comes through the door. Okay? It's got blue tape on it all over it so you can tell that it's not loaded. It doesn't have any ammunition in it. The bad guys will be using these weapons here. You can kind of tell it's got a big red thing on the end of it. That's a blank firing adapter. They're going to be shooting blanks. You can tell the blanks because, well, they're much lighter than a real bullet because there's no actual bullet inside of it. It's got a crimped front end, green on the front, and that's what they'll have. They are not going to be pointing these weapons at anybody and discharging them. So they're not going to walk in and pretend like they're shooting you and point this gun at you. That's not going to happen. They're going to walk in, they're going to have the gun aimed at the ground, But because law enforcement has to respond to the sound of gunfire, they are going to pull the trigger and it's going to make a loud bang. So just know to expect that. And they're not going to point it at anybody, so nobody can get hurt or anything. But that's so that the sound of the blank going off will attract the law enforcement officers to that particular room or to where that gunman is. So just so you guys know that. And all of the law enforcement officers that are coming in will have guns that have blue tape on them like this. They've all been inspected, so that anybody that comes in here, they've been inspected to make sure they're not loaded. So, and they shouldn't be pointing guns at you guys either, just so you know. There's a possibility they might if they don't know if you're a suspect or not, but they're not loaded.
Shots have been fired. The officers have now entered the campus. You're going to see people wearing these yellow vests. These are people that are observers. They're not part of the exercise, but they might be right in the middle of it. Let's go see what's going on now.
Walk along the wall, come down this way. Walk along the wall, go this way. Keep coming. Come on. Also, if we get mutual aid assistance,
he's in the far rear room here. We need a team of officers to arrest. 31 stand free. Confirm you can get handcuffed on that subject, or you need to arrest him for that. We need another body, and we'll get you.
Any gunshots? Where's your pump?
Jim Coombs is the principal of Rena Park High School. Principal Coombs, what do you think about all this going on today?
It's an enormous blessing for us to be able to partner with all of the fire, police, and OAC because it lets us be prepared too. Our philosophy has been if we're well prepared, we'll never have to deal with it. If we don't prepare, then it will happen and we will be caught off guard and our students will be at risk. So it's a huge blessing for us for them to sacrifice all this labor and time. And our students will benefit huge because this is the first step. We plan on doing a follow-up next fall with our staff in a smaller scale version of this so that they are even more prepared, and then make this an annual event for our school and for our community.
It must be devastating for you to hear in the news situations that are real happening at other schools.
Oh, absolutely. Because it's unspeakable. It's unspeakable that that kind of activity would happen. And so our only way to plan is to plan ahead for that, so that if it were to happen, we also realize that we're right next to the 91 and the 5. A year ago, Cal State Fullerton and Troy High School, our sister school, had bad people come off the freeway. So we figure we need to be well prepared. And so it's devastating to hear that. I have 4 sons of my own. One of them goes to school here. So it's personal. This is a personal thing for us.
Captain Hendricks, we're here at the command post. What goes on in this location?
This is a location where we triage the event, and we have all our outside assets, and our assets kind of a check-in point, obviously a unified chain of command, which is what we would establish, an incident command center, ICS. And from there, we're able to triage the assets that come in and deploy them in the field as needed.
What do training exercises like this provide you for future situations?
They provide us a realistic look. Are our department policies okay? Or is our mutual aid policies okay? Are we doing what we're supposed to be doing to triage a major event like this? And then we're able to afterwards look at what we have done today to see if we worked out okay, and should we improve on certain things that we do during the event.
You know, it's interesting because everyone collected here in the morning before this started, which might be different than a real situation. Why not just throw it up in the air and, you know, it's totally unexpected for everybody? Why have different things already in place?
There's a huge safety component involved in all this. So we have to prepare for the worst. However, there's just so much realism we can do. We have community out here, we have the school, we have real people that are part of the exercise. We have to make sure that they're safe. There's a lot of things that can go wrong. So we can't just throw it up in the air willy-nilly and see what happens. That would be optimal, but there are safeguards that we have to protect, because we have to protect our people, we have to protect the community and those types of things.
It's great that you've got so many different agencies here that are participating in the drill today.
Yes, I mean, one of the things that is absolutely certain, that if an event like this happens, real, we would be depending on a lot of different agencies to come and assist. No matter how big a police department is, whether it's Los Angeles Police Department or any other police department, you have to depend on other agencies to help, because we call it mutual aid. And so thus, with an event with this magnitude, there are different disciplines, there are different things that we need, there are different locations that people are coming from to gather in one point, which is why we have a command post and a command center, which is why it looks like what it is today.
How's it going so far?
So far, so good. There's a couple of mistakes that we're making, but that is what the whole idea is behind this, to learn from our mistakes before the event happens, to minimize the mistakes when it actually does happen. So it looks good, it's going good, but we'll see what happens when it's all over.
Don't leave us, please.
Everybody stay with each other, okay?
Don't leave. Don't leave, help me. Please.
Captain Paramedic Steve Concialdi is the Press Information Officer for the Orange County Fire Authority. Was it a good event for all the fire agencies?
This was an outstanding drill. First one at a high school in Orange County. We did a college 2 days ago, but this is showing real world what's going to happen. We've seen these across the nation. Columbine was in 1999, and over the years we've learned that people, gunshot victims, will die anywhere between 15 to 30 minutes if they're not treated. So Orange County is in the cutting edge among counties all across the nation. Law enforcement and fire personnel working together.
How unusual is it to even do a training exercise like this out in the field, or even have police and fire working together?
We're continuing to work together, and we need to in these incidents. Back in November 12th of 2012, top law enforcement officials and fire officials got together and approved a dramatic change in how we do business. And what that is firefighters going into a warm zone, an area that's already been cleared, with force protection to save lives. The law enforcement are going to go in first, make sure the active shooter is either dead or barricaded or contained in an area, and once they do that, they're going to bring our firefighter paramedics in with force protection, basically law enforcement protecting us in a 360-degree view from any other potential bad guys out there. So they're going to go downrange and they're going to find those gunshot victims, and our firefighter paramedics are going to be able to treat those victims and patients right then. We're going to pull them into a casualty collection point. If we have patients scattered, we're going to try to gather them up, put them in an area where we still have the force protection. Law enforcement are protecting any means of egress so that they could protect all views, and then we could treat those people until the whole area is safe for us to then evacuate all the patients.
With so many calls that the fire departments go on that are medical aids, it sounds like this just isn't another medical aid situation. It's very unique.
Right, this is a mass casualty incident, a number of victims. So at Buena Park High School here, there were 30 patients, as well as 20 other people running around. So as law enforcement are going in, they're seeing a number of people down, either shot, injured. They're seeing it's a chaotic scene because people are running and screaming. They have a job to do, but we need to get firefighter paramedics in there as quick as possible to start treating, or somebody's going to bleed out. Over these years at a lot of these different colleges and high schools where we've seen shootings like this, when it's taken too long for care to get to them, they have died. So the mindset now is once the scene is safe and the shooter is either barricaded, they're dead, or contained, we're going to bring in the firefighter paramedics in right away with force protection. That's the key here. That's the change in policy. So our firefighters aren't just going into a dangerous situation. They are protected by law enforcement. They're surrounded by them 360 degrees, making sure they're going in safely and coming out safely with patients.
As the exercise is starting to wind down, you're not quite as busy as you were this morning.
Right, big relief for me, that's for sure.
You know, everything apparently just seemed like it went pretty smooth. And I know that anytime that happens, there's a lot of preparation for it. So what was your involvement in getting this going today?
Well, we had a team of planners, both on the fire side, police side, and the school. We actually started a few months ago. You know, if you remember from prior episodes, we had a show about a tabletop exercise and all that. Well, that specific exercise was done as planning and preparation for this practical application.
And then starting today, when we arrived at 8, all the tape was up. What did it take to get the school ready?
Well, we got out here quite early. There was a team that we sent out to the site, to the school early this morning about 6 a.m. and they started putting up tape and cones and that sort of thing so that we could make sure that the site was clear. There was no one jogging on the track or that sort of thing, and it took quite a bit. I mean, you can see that's a lot of police tape.
And there's a lot of people here too.
Yeah, I wasn't really sure how many observers or visitors we were going to get, but as I got closer to the exercise, there were people that were interested to come and watch, and we had observers from Long Beach, La Habra, I believe Fullerton Fire actually participated along with Orange County Fire Authority. even the FBI came to observe. So you know there was a lot of interest in the topic. Of course, it's very high priority. It doesn't matter what jurisdiction you work in. So it's a good, you know, it was an excellent training. I mean, just from my perspective, I saw a few learning points, you know, things we need to practice and make some adjustments in. But all in all, worked pretty well. So I would expect to see more of this you know, interoperability and you know, unified command and training with police, fire, and other agencies to get better at these kinds of responses.
It must be so realistic, too, to be able to have it at a school ground.
Yeah, that's a huge benefit. You know, we're very appreciative of Principal Coombs and the Fullerton you know, High School District to be able to allow us to use the facility. It is spring break now, so we didn't have to worry about, you know, disturbing classes and having 2,000 kids here as opposed to the you know, 60 or 70 we had for role players. But it really changes things. I mean, to use an actual school for the training site is a huge benefit.
Very interesting, and hopefully, if it ever happens, we know that the fire agencies and the police agencies are going to be prepared. If you have any questions about today's show, you can call the Buena Park Police Department at 562-3901. With Sergeant Chris Nunez, I'm Jane Cameron. Thanks for watching.
Be sure to like us on the official City of Buena Park Facebook page and follow us on Twitter. There you'll find a little of everything from information about our city services and upcoming events to discounts offered by our entertainment attractions such as Knott's Berry Farm, Medieval Times, and Pirates Dinner Adventure.